Hey guys, what's up? Welcome to the review and react for episode 10 of Better Call Saul, Marco. This week's episode, really we're not going to dissect it completely down because like a large chunk of this doesn't require dissection. Like 30 minutes of it, right in the middle, it's him and Cicero just pulling cons.
Yeah. I thought that was a really cool montage, like the way they did it.
The 60s montage with the illuminated signs in the background.
The money flying around. That was
pretty
really
sweet. That's old school.
Yeah.
Yeah. Felt like it was a gangster movie or something. We'll do the usual, but it's the middle part we're just going to kind of skip over lightly. Starts with Slippin' Jimmy going back to Cicero, Illinois. Actually, it starts with a flashback. We'll go there. Of him leaving Marco. His, shall we say, large, balding friend Marco.
That's right. His buddy.
Marco was a little disillusioned. Kind of gave Jimmy the, on the way out the door. Flashback, or flash 2 now, where Jimmy comes back to the same bar. Marco's passed out at the bar. Jimmy wakes him up, and after a few minutes of making amends, or building bridges back to their friendship, they decide to pull a con on a guy using the, what was it? The Kennedy.
Yeah.
Kennedy quarter. And again, this now turns into them just pulling cons right and left on people. I thought while it was really interesting and you could see where it needed to be done, this was like the final nail in the coffin into turning him into Saul Goodman.
Yeah.
On the whole, there wasn't any one thing there that we need to really break down or dissect. It was just one con after another. Up until the point after Jimmy had been there for 7 days. It was the 7th day that...
On the 7th day.
On the 7th day, Jimmy's downstairs and decides that he's going home. On that same morning, though, there was one thing, a good callback. He is awakened by a girl telling him he is not Kevin Costner.
That's right.
Which, if you know your Breaking Bad lore, in one of the early meetings between Walter White and Saul Goodman, almost called him Jimmy, it's been a while, Saul was telling Walter White that people will believe anything you say if you believe what you say, and he tells him a story about making a girl once believe he was Kevin Costner. So we actually got to see that story in action. At this point, Marco wakes up and Jimmy has a heart-to-heart with him, tells him he's going back home. And Marco talks him into doing one last scam, the Rolex scam one last time.
Oh, the classic one.
The classic. I had a bad feeling about this. I saw that Marco was coughing here and there. Yeah. I thought that he was going to reveal he had cancer, or I thought that he was going to get shot. I didn't see Marco making it to the end of this episode, but not quite the way they did it. I didn't think he would have like a heart attack on the street corner off camera and die.
I honestly didn't see that coming at all either, so they got you.
They got me.
It was like, is he going to die? And it's like, oh yeah, he did die.
We just come from seeing Fast 6, or actually Furious 7, get the branding right, literally moments before starting this episode. So I've already got like death on my mind.
That's right.
So yeah, I was looking for somebody to die here. It happened to be Marco. Marco's ring, though, lives on. If you go pull up a picture of Saul Goodman from any episode of Breaking Bad, and you notice, he'll have that ring on, that pinky ring on. So they gave you the origin of the one piece of jewelry that Saul wears. Again, not overall, well, I'll get to it in a minute. I was going to say not overall very important to the show, but maybe that ring is way more important than I ever thought until it just popped in my mind now. I'll tell you why in a minute. Kind of all over the place here. There was one very long scene before Jimmy went back to Cicero, Illinois, where he's playing bingo. And he finally reveals what it was that he was sitting in jail for when Chuck bailed him out. And if you go back, maybe episode 5 where it begins with the flashback 4 or 5 where he's in jail and Chuck comes in with the big Zach Morris phone and they're running down the list of charges. And one of the charges is something pertaining to sexual assault or something with a minor. I wondered how they were ever going to explain that. Well, they explained it by saying he took a shot in front of 2 small children.
Or really close to 2 small children.
Yes, very close to 2 small children.
He didn't see them.
Chicago sunroof.
That's right.
We don't have to explain it. You guys watched the episode. But yeah, they cleared that up. At this point, Jimmy has a prolonged breakdown. That felt like it was shot in one scene, didn't it?
Yeah, it did.
I mean, I know they couldn't make the numbers continually come up, but his monologue from front to back felt like it was just one long scene. And you could see him kind of deteriorate as it went on. Okay, next bit of business. He then goes to Cicero, Illinois, because we jumped ahead a minute ago, and does the coin scam. We get the 60s montage you were so fond of. Point Marco dies, and Jimmy gets the ring, and he gets ready to come back. He gets a call from Kim telling him that he has an offer to work for Davis in Maine, which is another prominent law firm in town, and that Chuck has nothing to do with it. So Jimmy finally has made it on his own, so to speak. Even got a little help there from Hamlin, I guess, put in a good word for him. Once again, going back to something that I started to realize maybe around episode 6 or 7, Hamlin isn't such a bad guy.
Yeah.
Now, I think that it's going to be like what in wrestling they call it a false finish. I think Hamlin is going to turn out to be a douchebag, but he's not going to be a douchebag for the reasons Jimmy originally thought. I think later on we'll get to see Hamlin be a douchebag again. But for now, overall, by and large, he's not a bad guy. Jimmy comes back to town, where we get our second appearance of Ernesto, who Chuck refers to as Ernie. And you were the guy keen-eyed enough to notice, and I did confirm it using IMDb. Ernie, or Ernesto, this was his second appearance. He was in the mailroom.
I mean, where else would you know him from?
Sometimes people just interact off camera. But you were right. He was the guy in the mailroom that told Jimmy to give it to the jackholes upstairs. Yes, he said right. Jackholes. What really caught my ear, and boy, I'm shoehorning this Gus Fring thing into anything.
Sure are.
But Ernesto sounds like somebody that could be related to Gustavo.
Sure.
Just a little. And it's kind of, Jimmy's a black guy. Gus Fring, you never really knew exactly what Gus was.
I thought he was Spanish.
He was Spanish, but he could have been like a mixed race.
Kind of stretching it seems.
No, I think the actor, I don't know like his true origins, but I always had the impression that Gus Fring was of mixed race. So it could be possible he was related to Ernesto. If it happened next season, I called it. I'm the genius. You saw it.
That's right.
But I bring that up because I kept thinking we were going to get a Gus sighting. No Gus sighting. No Gus sighting this season.
That's right.
We skip ahead to Jimmy going for the meeting with Davis in Maine. He goes in, has a brief interaction with Mike. Actually, he doesn't interact with Mike at all going in. Just drives right on through. He gets up to where he's going to meet Davis in Maine, and you can kind of see his demeanor change. And at that point, he taps the ring.
Yeah.
This is where I think maybe the ring does play a larger part. Almost, it serves as a reminder to him what he was and what he really is at heart. I think he tried really hard to fight it for a long time, and people like Chuck just kept beating him down, and he didn't get anything in return for it. I think that ring is kind of a reminder. And
I think you put that perfectly.
I noticed, and now this is in retrospect in memory, but I've watched Breaking Bad quite a few times. I know you have more than I have. The reason the ring's even noticeable at all is because in episodes you can see him fidgeting with it. To me, that means that maybe if he's in doubt, he's summoning the power of Marco to help him remember how to do things right.
Get in a mood like how Apache puts on war paint or something. Like summon a state of mind, kind of.
It's a state of mind, yeah. It's just kind of like the word would be a talisman.
Talisman.
It's an Indian word. It's a talisman. It's like something that you put importance or meaning into that may not have importance or meaning to anyone else, but you draw power from it.
One thing about that is, I don't know if you know who Jordan Belfort is, but I was watching like one of his little sales seminars, because it's kind of interesting. He was talking about how he uses like smells to get him in, like,
right.
How you get like fired up like that. Yeah. He has a little like cinnamon or something like that. He smells it and he goes on stage and he just kills. So he kind of uses that to...
Wolf of Wall Street, folks.
That's right.
There you go. Similar, but not. Yeah, that's how he gets fired up. In this case, I think that the ring is kind of Jimmy's way of becoming Saul. I think the last thing that we saw, the very last image we saw of Jimmy after he drives away from Mike, I think we saw Saul Goodman.
I think so. I think you're right.
And while this episode wasn't everything I hoped for, it set up what will be Better Call Saul.
It was essential.
I feel that this first 10 episodes maybe shouldn't have been called Better Call Saul. It should have been called Jimmy Becomes Saul.
That's right.
Or Poor Jimmy or something.
Jimmy finds his way.
Yeah. I think next season is going to be Better Call Saul. I think this season, Jimmy and Friends.
Well, didn't he get $20,000 for helping them out?
He did, and he's going to continue to get profits. So he's going to have money to start with.
Yeah. Legal money to start with.
And they did lay the groundwork one more time with him and Mike on the way out, where Mike said that he did the job, plain and simple. And so Jimmy knows that he can trust Mike. Again, for the future, they laid it down there one more time. Okay, final thoughts on this episode and this season. What do you give this episode?
I give it an A+. I really liked the ending. I really did.
I think that the ending saved the episode. The episode was fine. It felt like the majority of the episode felt like it should have been mid-season, but I understand that this was where he becomes Saul, and this was the catalyst. I just give it an A.
You give it an A?
For my money, the second episode of the season, where they're in the desert with Tuco, was the best. The episode where Mike kills the two cops in Philly, I think maybe episode 6, was the second best, and then I would put this as maybe the third best episode of the season.
Like we were talking about, what I like about TV is, or like TV series, they can really go in depth and show like character development. With like a movie, you like that, you skip right over that. Like in 30 minutes, that would have just been gone. But you get to see it happen over like hours.
Over a long time.
That's right.
Yeah, and movies that use sequels to do that don't always take advantage. They usually do things like Friday the 13th Part 12 or something, so you don't really get any character development out of it.
Well, yeah, that's an example.
Yeah. I don't know. Like, the Fast and the Furious, I think the reason it continues to grow and catch on is they are using those movies for character development. Unlike most movies that get sequels, they don't. But, like, TV shows like this, yes, they do. Most TV shows still don't take advantage of that.
They should. Actually, that's a very important part of a storyline is character development.
So, since we're going to be without Better Call Saul, you and I are going to go to Atari reviews next month to fill our time.
All right.
The TV show that I'm going to pick up in my spare time is called Battle Creek, to fill the hole from Saul.
Battle Creek.
Also created by Vince Gilligan.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, it's got Josh Duhamel and
Josh
Kumar from Harold and Kumar.
Good for him.
Yeah, should be.
Didn't
all right.
one of them? Wasn't one of them like running to be a governor or something like that?
Yeah, this guy. He didn't run to be governor. He worked for Obama.
Good for him.
Yeah, good for him. I don't know. Hope the show doesn't suck. It's by Vince Gilligan. It's not going to be as in depth, and it doesn't take place in this universe. But what are you going to do? We will see you guys next year, I guess, with the next installment of the Better Call Saul review and react. We've kicked around the idea one of these days of doing a retro Breaking Bad review and react, but that would have to be during the summer when we had more time.
It would be. That would take a while. We
could do maybe a season over the summer and do a season of Breaking Bad in between the Better Call Saul.
That would be fun.
Yeah, we might do that. First season only has 7 episodes. We might do that this summer. Do one a week. Until next time, guys. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next year.
That's right. Seriously, though, thank you for watching.
Yeah, what he said.
Yeah.